Hi guys, today in this video we will be learning about interface in Java. Okay, so in this video we'll going to know what is interface in Java, and then we'll get to know where where to use interface, right? Or we can say where, or we can say why to use interface, right? At the same time, we should know that how to use interface, right? So now let's talk about one by one what is interface, where to or why to use interface, and then how to use interface. Now I'll talk you before we go inside deep knowledge of interface, we should know that what is interface, right? Interface, I can say it's that this is a keyword, right? This is a keyword in Java, right? So it's used with class type which do not have any concrete method, right? So what is the definition of interface? We can say that it is an first of all it is a keyword in Java, right? This is the main identity of an interface keyword. Now another thing is, what is interface? Interface is something which is used with a class type, and which do not have any concrete method, in the sense which do not have any body method with body, right? It can have methods only without any body. So we can say interface can have only methods without any body. Now remember this thing, um, post Java 8. Okay, Java has given us some feature where we can define interface can have body. Interface methods can have methods with body also, but let's keep it aside. Okay, this Java 8, from the post Java 8, interface can have methods with body, but let's keep this idea right now apart from our discussion. We'll be now just focusing on the base idea, initial methodology, whatever we what is the main idea behind of developing the interfaces or developing having the interface in Java. That will be more first we'll be discussing on this, and then later on we'll see the Java 8 features, that interface, how we can have methods with body, right? So we already have know that abstract class about, right? Something about abstract class. So in our previous video also we have in details described what is abstract class, and there are in details we have described everything about abstract class, right? So there you got to know abstract class is something which can have defined and undefined methods, right? It can have implemented, you can say implemented, and unimplemented method, right? So abstract class is something which can have implemented and unimplemented methods. Now we got to know that interface is something which can have only unimplemented method, right? Which do not have concrete methods, or you can say unimplemented method, right? So this is the main difference between abstract class and interface. So interface is something which do not have any method with body, and abstract class is something which can have implemented and unimplemented method both, right? So this is the main difference we got to know. Now another thing we have to know, that interface, what does interface provide us? So interface we got to know that interface have more methods without any body. So it just have methods without have any body. So without any body means what you are going to provide, right? So interface talks about what to what you must have, right? Let's say I'm creating one system. In that system I'm defining one interface, and that interface I'm going to use for some other classes, right? So in that interface we'll be having some methods which must be implemented into other methods, right? So if now let's take an real time example so that it should be very easy to understand for you. Now let's say I am going to define one calculator system. Okay, so let's say I am going to define one calculator system. So I am designing this is a calculator system. So this is my project, calculator project, right? Inside of this calculator project I am going to have one interface. Let's say this is my interface named as called calculator, right? So this is my calculator interface. Inside of this calculator interface I'll be saying that I need to provide calculator sum operation. I need to have subtraction operation, and I need to have multiplication operation, and at the same time I need to have division operation, right? So these are the minimum number of operation one calculator should have, right? So these are, but I am not assigning here, I am not saying that how to define, how to implement those methods, how to implement the summation operation, how to implement the subtraction or multiplication or division. This I am not defining here. So if we writing any code this way, these are nothing but my interface, right? So we are just declaring that what to define, but we are not saying that how to do it. This is my interface. Now in this system, this is my system, and here I want to develop a calculator. Let's see, this is my basic calculator, right? And I want to define another calculator which is my scientific calculator. So there are two type of calculator I am defining. Let's say this is my basic calculator, and this is my scientific calculator, right? So whether it is a basic calculator or scientific calculator, both the calculator is going to implement this calculator interface, right? So what we can do, everything is going to implement this calculator interface, right? So if they are going to implement, that means you must have these operations, that summation, subtraction, multiplication, division should be implemented here, right? So those are just defined inside of this calculator interface. Those are just made as a mandatory, but you must have those options here for this implemented classes also, right? But apart from this this minimum number of apart from this minimum number of operations, my calculator classes can have other operations also, right? Let's say I'm talking about scientific calculator. It can have functions for calculating the area. It can have function for calculating the rate of interest or some other operations also, right? For my basic calculator, let's keep it as simple as it is. Let's say it have only these four operation. That means calculating summation, subtraction, multiplication, division, correct? Now how now you can got to know that we are designing an calculator interface, we are designing a calculator system, and there we are defining one interface. And this interface, we do not know how we are going to define all these methods, but we are saying that you need to, hey, if you are new, if you are going to create any calculator class, so you must have to provide this minimum number of requirements. So these are nothing but, you can see, interface is nothing but setting to set the rule, right? To set the rule, what minimum number of operations you need to perform, right? To set a rule. So this is one of the use of interface. So what is the use of interface? We can see to set the rules, right? So anyone who is going to implement the class, so they must have to set the rule. Another use is like when you do not know the implementation of the code, right? So what is going to be their implementation of a code, or it can be uh, their implementation can be different from each classes to another class. So let's say this is my basic calculator and this is my scientific calculator. The operation inside of these classes, the definition can be different from each class to another class. So in those cases, so these are the minimum number of cases, so why we should have interface in Java. We should have used the interface, right? So the first thing is to set the rule. We know what is the use of the interface. So we said that the first thing we can say use of interface. So here you can see um, number one point we can say to set the rule for the implemented classes, right? And in number two what we can say, um, number two we can say that when we are not sure about the implementation, right? So when we are not sure about the implementation, that time also we can use the interface, right? Third one what we say, when the implementation is going to be different for each classes, right? So these are the minimum, these are the reason why we should go ahead with the interface. So I hope this is clear to you guys. So if someone asks you why do we do need the interface, right? So interface is something where you can have only undefined methods. And what is the use of these interfaces? When you are not at all sure about that what is the implementation is going to be for those particular methods, right? Or sometime you may need to set some rule, right? If any you are you are going to develop a system, so that system must have this particular those system must have this minimum number of features. To to set those rules, to set those rules we need to have defined the interface, right? So let's quickly see this into an example how to use it the interface. Let me create one package here. So I'll, instead of abstract, I'll say my interface, and inside of this I'll create one interface called calculator. Now from this options here you can see we have four options. Either you can go ahead with the class creation or interface or in our annotation. So right now we are interested on interface creation, so I'll be selecting on the second option. I'll hit enter. So this is creating my interface. And the another thing is interface, whenever you are going to create interface you should associate this interface keyword with your class name, right? And the thing is, for we can write it down. For creating any interface we need to use interface keyword with its name, okay? And another thing you can see here, one notice it that the name of the interface should be always same of the class name of the file name. Here the file name is calculator.java, and the class, my interface name also class, right? So the another point we can say, file name and the interface name should exactly same, right? These are the 2 points we got to know here. Okay, so now inside of this calculator let me create some features. Let's see, I'll see void, I'll say sum operation. Instead of the sum operation, I need two number to calculate the summation. So I'll say integer number 1, I'll say number 2, and I'll make it as a abstract method, so I should not have any body. So I'll close it over here. And definitely you have to know that all the abstract methods which is not defined is had to end up with the semicolon. Okay, generally you see that method do not have a semicolon at the end of method definition, but here if you are using any abstract method, so you must have to use this semicolon after the method. Okay, so another, let me quickly create couple of another methods. So I'll create for summation, subtraction and division, right? So I'll change it to subtraction, and instead of this I'll say multiplication, and for the next one I'll say division. Okay, so we have created four methods. One is summation, subtraction, multiplication and division. So now these are the methods, all are unimplemented methods, so all are not defined. So what if I try to define a method? So you can see here we are getting one error, and if you keep your mouse, if you take your mouse over here, you can see interface abstract methods cannot have body, right? So this is one of the point. Another point you have to note down, that you have to understand, you have to know that interface cannot have a method with body, right? That means interface cannot have method or implemented methods, right? Cannot have method with body, right? So this is also got to know. Just one more thing for your knowledge purpose. Let's say I'm trying to use one specific keyword here. Let's say I'm using public, but as soon as I'm using the public keyword here in this method definition, so you can say this is the public keyword is grayed out, right? But here you can see the class name, the public keyword we have used, this is not at all grayed out. But in this case of method definition it is grayed out. The reason behind, if you keep your mouse over here, you can see what it is saying: modifier public is redundant for interface members, right? So it's saying that public is redundant, so that means you do not need to exclusively use this public keyword. It is already by default Java treating any all the abstract methods inside of an interface as public. Got it? So we can see another behavior, that inside by default you can see by default all the methods inside of an interface are public. Okay, so what we have seen here, by default all the methods in an inside an interface are by default public, right? So you do not need to exclusively mention that it is public or something, right? So now let's create some classes. So I'll be creating one basic calculator. So let's create a basic calculator class, basic calculator, and create class. And at the same time let me create another class, and I'll say scientific calculator, or you can say advanced calculator, right? So there are two let me just rename this class file. I'll say rename, I'll say advanced bnc. Perfect. So we have created two class. One is basic class, basic calculator, and another is advanced calculator. Now let's implement the calculator interface, right? So as soon as we are implementing the calculator interface, you can see what happening. First of all, you need to know how to implement that. We have to use the implement keyword, right? So we can write it the note over here. So let's try to write down the note. We need to use interface implements keyword to implement an interface in a class, right? So we can use implement keyword in an interface. Okay, so we can use implements keyword to implement an interface in a class. Let me take you to their that basic calculator class. Now if I do mouse over there, this error, so you can see it's what it suggesting me. Calculator basic calculator class basic calculator must either be declared abstract or implement abstract method sum, right? So it is saying, it is just suggesting me that you should have your class name as abstract, or you must have declare all the methods, you must have implement all the methods that is they are present inside of this calculator interface. So let me take your mouse over here, and I have this option from this IDE. So IDE just by default, sorry, internally it is providing me, it is helping me to implement all these methods. So if you click on this link, so you can see all these methods are displaying here, which all are defined there inside of this calculator interface, right? So just click on OK. So you can see all the methods that we have there in this calculator interface. Now those are get implemented, those are got overridden here in this basic calculator, correct? Now similar way, I'll go to here advanced calculator, and here I also implement it. Let's say implements, and I'll say calculator, right? So calculator again, here I can see it is giving me prompt to implement the methods. I'll just say OK. Now here also I got the same. Now let me take you to basic calculator. I'll say, sorry, now let me print down statement. So sum, I'll say from basic calculator, right? So I'll say number 1 plus number 2, right? So I'll be just printing the summation of the number 1 and number 2, and in the same way I can use for others. So just print sum from, so instead of sub, this is sub and this should be my sum, right? So instead of number 1 I'll say minus, and similar way here also I can give the same multiplication, and here instead of plus operation I'll say asterisk here also. So I'll say division operation, and instead of basic calculator, and I'll say number 1 divided by number 2, right? So similar way we can provide our calculation. So I'm not, so this is something we can say advanced calculator, number 1 plus number 2. I'm not going to define these other cases that you can do, right? So not only these operations in apart from this we can have our, the classes can have its own operations. Let's say void, and I'll say calculate area, right? So to calculate area, let's see, I'm just for now I'm not discussing on the implementation part, I'm just showing some printout statement from advanced calculator, right? So similar way I can have any number of defined methods there inside of this particular advanced calculator that may not be present there in the basic calculator, right? Now let's see. So you now got to understand that whoever the classes are going to use this calculator as an interface, they must have to declare the methods which is unimplemented there inside of this calculator, right? So this basic calculator also have this minimum 4 number of uh, methods defined inside of this, and at the same time advanced calculator also have minimum these 4 number of methods defined inside of this. So apart from this, the each and every class can have their own methods also. That's their own, that's up to the class uses purpose, but these are the minimum, these are the set of rules that you have to use, right? Now let's try quickly test this the application we have developed, right? So just I'll create one test interface test. This is the class I'm creating, and in this class what I can have, I can now take a main method. Inside of this main method, let's take and create an object of basic calculator. So I'll say basic calculator, say basic calculator equal to new basic calculator, right? And similar way I can create an object of the advanced calculator. So I'll create advanced calculator equal to new advanced calculator, correct? So now let's call the methods from the calculators. So I'll say summation, and here I'll be passing number, let's say 23 comma 12, right? At the same time I can call some other methods also, some other functions also. Let's say basic calculator dot, I'll say multiplication, and I'll pass two number, let's say 34 and 4, right? So similar way I can call the object of advanced calculator, and let's say I'm calling for summation. One second, let me call the summation operation, and here I will be passing the number, let's say 34 comma 12, right? Now let me create call another method which is not present there inside calculated area, which is not available there in the basic calculator, right? So I'm able to call it from here because we have defined, let me just rename, uh, so area, right? So here it should be area. Now okay, this is fixed. Now let's try to example that, let's try to run it. See how. Now we got the output from sum from basic calculator. The summation is 35, multiplication operation giving us the result as 136. From the next advanced calculator we are getting this result, right? Now perfect, right? So we are getting the output as per expectation. So what we got to learn so far, that we have defined one calculator interface, and in that interface we have some methods, right? Which is, you can see we did not use any access specifier to these classes, but still we are able to use these methods outside of this package boundary, right? From here we are able to use those, right? So here we have one basic calculator class which is going to implement that my calculator interface, and in the interface it is the we also got to know, we also seen that we have to minimum declare minimum, we have to define these methods which is there in the calculator interface, right? At the same time we have to define all these methods here. The other classes advanced calculator we are implementing that calculator interface, right? And not only those minimum number of methods, you can have any n number of methods defined or inside your class file, whatever you need, right? So this is something we got to know. And there are some other things that we can have. um, we uh, we can have multiple interfaces also. Right now we are dealing with the single interface, so dealing with multiple interface, right? A class can have how to use multiple interfaces in a class, that we can see in our next video. For now I'll keep this video short and very easy to understand, so that you should know, you should be prepared for the next video. On next video we'll be talking about how to deal with the multiple interfaces, and how to use the implemented methods in an interface, or what we need to do if we want to implement any method inside of this interface. Right now we can see that if you try to implement any body, it is giving you error. But there is a way, which is the advanced feature of Java 1.8. Right, from Java 8 we can define method body inside of an interface. So we'll see those in our next video. For now I am keeping this as short as possible. I hope everything is got clear to you guys. If anything is not clear, you have any queries, just let me know. Or if you are not able to understand something, just let us know. Or you wanted to know something else, whatever you wanted to know from us, just let us know on these topics, so we can create a video. We can give more example, practical examples, so that it should be clear to you guys. Okay, thank you and take care.